Hello and welcome to part number 4 of this video series where we talk about violence in social life. In the last few videos we talked about the early stages of violent conflict where insults are being thrown, first physical touch, but now in this video we'll talk about the actual fights that can occur, actual fists flying. Now this is rare, okay? I cannot stress this enough, but it can happen that you go out with your friends to have a good time and meet some new people, and instead of dancing the night away at a club, you end up spending the night in a hospital. And it almost happened to me a couple of times. And in this video, I'll tell you those 2 stories that went into that direction. And those are not heroic stories. Those are not stories that I share often. I haven't talked about this with a lot of people because I really didn't know how to deal with that violence. And I could have reacted better. And in this video, I'll tell you how. So the first story I want to tell you is of a time where I was approaching lots of people. I was single and online dating didn't work for me, so I knew I had to talk to lots of people. And whenever I saw someone interesting, even in the streets outside, I would just say hi. And so I did that one day. And that woman, she had just come out of a car, or maybe she was going to the car, I'm not sure. And she kind of waved me off immediately. She said and that's quite a regular occurrence when you talk to a lot of people. Some of them will just not be open and not have it at all. But she kind of went into the car, I remember, and suddenly a guy came out of the car on the other side, on the driver's seat, and he immediately walked towards me. And he was this very big guy, like a bit obese, but also huge, looked a bit like a gangster. And he just walked towards me and said, "Hey, what did you ask her? What did you tell her?" And I didn't even have time to respond to that. And already I felt his fist on my cheekbone. Boom. That was I think the first time someone just punched me in the face without it being a staged or practice fight. And I was quite shocked. I took a step back and I assessed the situation. I don't think anyone else was really even noticing it. It was a busy street, but people had other stuff to do. And so I remembered, and this is the first real insight here, there is, of course, a law that you are allowed to defend yourself when someone attacks you. But that law doesn't really help you in this case. First of all, you can't really defend yourself against an opponent who's just completely out of your weight class and who is willing to use much more violent means, because he's clearly an uncivilized man. And second, that law only allows you to defend yourself to the point where it neutralizes the threat. You must not go beyond that. You must not, break a guy's skull or kill him because he punched you in the face. And as someone who's not an expert at martial arts, it's really hard to gauge how much force would be necessary to stop the threat, to stop him from attacking you without doing too much, which could then lead you into legal disaster. So these thoughts were kind of in the back of my head, and I really didn't know what I could do here. But it was absolutely clear to me that I didn't want to get into a fight with him. And so instead, and this felt very humiliating in that moment, I took a step back. And I said, "Hey man, chill. All right, chill." And that way I just retreated. And luckily he wasn't pursuing. And if he had pursued, it would be a different thing. And then I would have had to fight. But here, in this situation, I realized that the smarter way is to not enter that fight, even though he already started it. And so the big question when you get into a fight like that is, first of all, do you think you can win? But that's a question that you can almost never certainly answer with a yes, because you have no idea what kind of person you're dealing with in these situations. In this case, it was clear that this was a violent, barbaric person, and I wouldn't have put it past him that he would pull out a gun or a knife. So in most cases, you cannot say whether you're going to win. So the second, more important question is, can you retreat safely? And as cowardly as it might sound, that's usually the best idea. Every martial arts trainer will also tell you that whatever you train for in martial arts is not going to be very useful out on the streets, because on the streets there are no rules. There are no weight categories. There are no weapons or moves that are allowed or not allowed. Obviously, this is a very unsatisfactory solution. When you retreat from a situation like that, you'll feel like a loser who's just letting people attack him without any defense or punishment. But here's the key. The more effective punishment for a person like that is not you trying to fight him, but you reporting him to the police. And the way you do that effectively is, once you have retreated into safety, you pull out your phone and you zoom in and you take a photo of the guy. You maybe note down the number plate. You take a video. Then you can report and press charges. That's going to cause him a lot more pain than your weaker body trying to fight. It's extremely hard to remember this in that moment because you will be overwhelmed with emotion, lots of anger. You'll be scared. And if you're a bit like me, you'll also have a bit of a doubt. Did I do something wrong? Am I also guilty here? But if there's one thing I want you to take out of this video, it's this thing. Retreat to safety, document, and then report. There's another story which illustrates how you can do this, where something similar happened, and even though this was after the first story, I still hadn't really learned my lesson. So here's how it played out. This was when I was walking together with my girlfriend, and we were walking across a bridge. It was dark, that bridge was poorly lit, and there was no one else around. But when we started crossing that bridge, we could already hear two kind of drunkard guys screaming, "Free Palestine!" and like throwing bottles onto the train tracks under the bridge. So I knew we were in for a bit of a rough passage. I grabbed the hands of my girlfriend tightly and we walked towards them. And then this one dude, he decided that he wanted to pass right between me and my girlfriend. He wanted to just walk right between and separate us. I didn't let that happen and pushed him away. And that's what got him over the edge. And he said, "Whoa, don't touch me." And immediately, without warning, he started kicking me. Kicked me with one leg on my leg. And luckily his friend was a bit more in his senses and held him back a little bit. But there was this moment of primal stare down where I knew this is a situation where a fight is almost inevitable, because I can't run away. My girlfriend cannot run as fast as me and not as fast as these guys. So I looked him into the eyes. I knew he wanted to fight and I had no choice. I had to get ready to fight. Luckily, this friend held him back successfully, and my girlfriend also de-escalated a little bit, holding me back. And we looked at each other, and again, I realized, okay, it's probably a better idea to retreat slowly. And so without turning my back to these guys, I walked backwards with my girlfriend, making sure that they don't attack again. And that way we escaped that situation. Again, it felt extremely humiliating, especially in front of my girlfriend. And for the next few minutes, I was wondering, did I do the right thing, or should I have fought the guys? So after 15 minutes of calming down, I remembered the last part of the solution, which is to report. I called the police, but then they said, "Yeah, where are the guys?" And I said, "I have no idea. I mean, they walked in that direction." Now here, apart from documenting, a really good step that I could have taken is to actually return back to these guys and follow them from a safe distance. They were intoxicated, they were rampaging, they're probably going to do this for a few more hours to a few more people. And if I had followed them, I could have told the police exactly where they are, what they're up to now, and they would have put those people into deep shit. So I think that's what I should have done in that situation. So here, on top of retreating to safety, documenting, and reporting, you could add follow as a way to make sure that these guys actually get caught and brought to justice. Of course, the effectiveness of this strategy depends on how strongly law and order are maintained in your locality. But in most Western countries, when there is a clear, one-sided, violent attack like this, the system works well enough to give the perpetrator quite a bit of trouble. And so the key idea here is to, when possible, avoid the fight, maintain your physical integrity, which is more important than your masculine pride, and then let that system work for you. In the next video, we will wrap up this 5-part series and look at the very few cases where it's actually not possible to avoid the fight. You're dragged into it and there's no way to retreat. And you'll see how rare this case really is. And in that case, of course, self-defense becomes important. So we'll talk about that and also give an overall judgment on whether you should even be going to the kind of places where violent conflict like this can happen. Subscribe to the channel if you want to get notified when that video is released. Thanks for watching. Samgachadvam. Namaskar.